Veterans, filing a VA claim without medical evidence is like going into battle without a weapon. You certainly don't want to do that. Today, we're going to talk about the things that you must have before you hit that submit button. Let's go. What's going on? Hey, Chuck, how you doing today, brother?
Good morning. How you doing?
Man, if I was any better, I think I'd need a warning label.
Okay,
But
if I was any better, I'd be a twin.
well, we certainly don't want another one of you. So,
Absolutely
man,
not.
Man, I love it. Well, today, listen, Chuck and I are going to be talking about medical evidence and really what you need to support your claim. Like I said at the beginning, you don't want to do this. It's like going into battle without a weapon. So we're going to help you set yourself up for success. And today we're going to talk about the different things: an IMO versus a nexus letter versus a DBQ. And at Valor, we do what's called a fully developed claim package, which puts some of that stuff together for you and get you ready to go for a winning strategy, right? So, Chuck, before we dive into this, man, tell the world about yourself.
Yeah. So thanks for having me on today, Stacy. I'm excited to talk about this stuff. It's stuff that I really didn't know back when I was going through the claims process myself. So I'm excited to talk about it with our vets. So a little bit about me. I've spent 26 years in the Army, finally retired. Can't believe it's been 10 years since I retired. So I finally got my AARP card in the mail. So I'm looking forward to getting what did you say, that Super Slam discount?
Oh
So,
yeah, that senior slam,
oh,
absolutely.
senior. So I'm pumped up. But retired now, live in Utah, and love it that I'm here helping continue to help vets. So thanks for having me on today.
Yeah, absolutely. And for those of you that don't, maybe this is the first time watching one of our videos, my name's Stacy Allen. I'm the founder and CEO of Valor Health, and we launched this company really to help veterans through this process with the medical evidence. Chuck and I had actually worked together at another organization helping veterans through the process. And what I discovered is that most veterans were losing their claims not because things didn't happen or it was really because they didn't have the medical evidence to support their claims, and that's really what led us to launch Valor Health. And man, we've been seeing a lot of success over the past year with veterans winning their claims with the evidence that they've picked up from us. When you say, Chuck?
Yeah, absolutely. And this last year, Stacy, has been so satisfying. Because like you said, the medical evidence is something that I think a lot of vets don't think about. I know I didn't. We just kind of think about our ailments and think that they're related to our military service, and we submit claims. They come back denied. We ripped up the decision letter and start from scratch. So I think this is some good education for a lot of vets because the medical evidence that's what's going to win your claim for you, right? So when it comes to the IMOs, the nexus letters, the DBQs, the fully developed claim packages, man, this past year has been phenomenal for Valor Health. And seeing our veterans win their claims first time within 14 days sometimes. I think for the most part, if I had to guesstimate, I would say on average we're probably sitting at you know around 60 days or less on decisions on claims just for having that strong medical evidence.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to talk about the different services that we offer and and talk about how those set up veterans for success. And I'll just start with our fully developed claim package. That really gives the VA everything that they need to make a decision. And we've seen a lot of claims come back without even a CNP exam and getting rated just within days sometimes, right?
Yeah, I think didn't we just have one recently within like 7 days or 14 days or something?
We actually had one. The veteran filed on a Friday, and on a Monday he had a decision, a winning claim.
That's
It was
amazing.
insane. Yeah, love it, love it. But
Yeah.
let's dive into the different things that we offer. Let's start with an IMO, for instance, what we call an IMO, and what that is, and what veterans can expect from something like that. Chuck, you want to kick that off?
Yeah, so the IMO, the independent medical opinion, is one of the services that we provide. We have the mental health services, we have the medical services. Um, the IMO is pretty much that clinical rationale from either our medical provider or the mental health provider. And it's good to have that because what that's doing is connecting, your condition to your military service. And there's some key words that a lot of vets really don't think about when it comes to those IMOs. And one of the key terms is at least as likely as not, right? Caused or aggravated by your military service. So our medical professionals and mental health professionals that we have here, they're so trained and they're so freaking awesome. I love all of them. They do an awesome job at the IMOs. So, to have those keywords and things that the VA is looking for in those documents is 100% what you need to have a successful claim. So, um, I would recommend if you haven't checked out Valor Health, please do so. It's going to make your claim a lot more stronger, when you get to the point to filing it. So,
Yeah, absolutely. And for those veterans that want to come over and get more information, we'll throw it up here on the screen. They can actually get a free 30-minute consultation with one of our case analysts, right? And talk about the case. And so just go to our website, valorhealth.net, have that conversation. If there's something that we believe we can help you with, we're going to go through it with you. And if not, we're going to tell you, right? We're not going to drag you through the process if we don't see a path for you, right? So is there really a difference between an IMO versus a nexus letter? And every veteran that's going through this process has heard the term nexus letter. What does that actually mean?
yeah, I think the Nexus letter, the IMO and Nexus letter, in my opinion, is kind of doing the same thing. It's connecting your current disabilities or your current things that you're trying to file claims to something that's related to your service. Maybe it's a secondary condition, right? But having that medical evidence, you see a lot of times where a vet gets denied and maybe they have an unfavorable CMP exam. Well, having that IMO or having that Nexus letter is going to be helpful for you when it comes time for you to appeal that claim, right? Because I think a lot of times, and you hear it every day, oh, my CMP exam lasted 10 minutes, right? And then they get denied on their claim. Well, if you have that IMO or that Nexus letter, from a medical provider that was an in-depth hour-long session, that just gives you a little bit more combative power when it comes time to appeal that stuff, right? Because you can argue the fact that, hey, this mental health evaluation, this IMO that I had, or this Nexus letter speaks to my condition, and in fact, they reviewed all of my records in depth. They know what my scenario is. So you've kind of got a little bit more leveraging power when it comes time, especially if you have that medical evidence, right? So I think it's so helpful for vets to have that stuff when they file their claims.
Yeah, and you made a great point of it's not an opinion based on just subjective evidence, basically having a conversation with the veteran. Those IMOs and those nexus letters are really based on objective medical evidence, things that are already documented, whether it be in your military service treatment records or other military records. Maybe your DD 214 puts you over in the Middle East or something, and we're looking at things like that. as well as your blue button report, private medical records. All of that is gone through, and we use, or our clinicians rather, use that objective evidence that's already documented, and they just connect the dots, right? They just put things together, and that's what a nexus actually means, is connection, right?
That's right.
Now, for Valor Health, for those of you that still may be confused on what the difference is between an IMO and a nexus letter, they're essentially the same thing. We use those two different terms to differentiate between mental health and medical. We use the term IMO to qualify to our mental health providers, right? And our medical providers use the term nexus letter. Okay. But it's essentially the same thing.
Yeah, I think the big key is the linkage, right? The nexus, and you see that all the time in next and decision letters that come back. No, no nexus, no link.
Yeah.
Um, you see it all the time, and the thing about it is having that IMO or that nexus letter if you're talking medical versus mental health. Um, Man, I've seen so many veterans go back and submit a higher level review and talk to that senior reviewer and say, hey, look, the decision letter says this. However, I do have that nexus or that linkage between the two conditions. So, yeah, that's a big part of the decision letter that I see coming back these days.
Yeah, absolutely. So before we talk about the next service that we offer, I want to kind of rewind and talk about the things that are absolutely required for a service connection, right? There's three things, and we lovingly refer to those three things as the Kaluza triangle, and it's based on a court decision several years ago, and actually we'll put a link to that article. We did a video on that a few weeks ago about Mario Kaluza. But those three things are a service connected, or I'm sorry, rather, uh, a in service event or condition that result happen on active duty. And secondly, you have to have a current diagnosis, right? And third, you have to have a nexus, and that nexus is what connects your service to your current diagnosis. You have to have those three things for a positive connection. Is that right?
Yeah, that's exactly right, Stacy. And that was something I learned, back when I started, working on my stuff. Um, and sometimes that diagnosis, right? When the VA is looking at that stuff, you may have a diagnosis from 10 years ago, right? But do you have that continuity of care from then on too? Which is really important too. Yeah, I have headaches diagnosed, back in 2012, but I haven't been seen or treated for headaches since then. Okay, so that's kind of an important part of the puzzle too. Is you want to make sure that you still have that ongoing continuity of care, because that's going to also help make your claim a little stronger. That says, hey, look, this happened back then. However, I've been seen and treated for these things up until today. So great point. Those three things are most important. A lot of times, you'll see veterans, when it comes to those three things, a lot of them don't have the diagnosis because they've never been seen or treated for it, right? So that's the first thing that comes out of my mouth. Get to the doctor, get seen, get evaluated, get the diagnosis. When you have that, come back to us here at Valor Health, and we can help you with the Nexus letter, IMO, FDC, whatever you're needing.
That's right. That's right. Great points. Um, so moving down the line of the things that some of the services that we offer is our DBQ package, right? That's a disability benefits questionnaire. You want to touch on that, Chuck?
Yeah, this is huge. This is so huge, and our providers do a great job of completing those DBQs. So you have the Nexus letter or the IMO that is connecting something to your military service. That's the link. The DBQ, the disability questionnaire, is the questionnaire. is more of a breakdown of your symptoms, right? On that form, on that DBQ form. So when it comes to your VA rating, a lot of times what they're looking at is the frequency, the duration, and help me out,
The severity. Yeah.
severity. Yeah. So
Yeah.
those three things are is what's kind of written up in that DBQ form, whereas the Nexus letter may not break it down that far, right? So having that DBQ form to submit with your claim just makes it even stronger, right? And a lot of times, when you have that DBQ and that Nexus letter and you use that to file your claim, a lot of times you'll bypass that CMP exam, right? Because the CMP examiner is filling out a DBQ when you go to the CMP exam. So it's kind of like, well, I've already got that submitted with my claim. Why do I need to have a CMP exam scheduled? So a lot of times when the VA initially looks at your claim and they see that DBQ, they may just make a decision based on that medical evidence that you have already on the DBQ. So I always recommend, for vets that I talk to here at Valor Health, I always recommend that DBQ because that could save them a lot of time, make that decision come back a lot faster.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you have that, and let's say the DBQ shows your severity here, but you get rated here as far as the severity goes, now you've got evidence to push back with a higher level review or some other type of appeal, right?
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, so it's really all about the evidence. So, um, so what we do, if you're not service connected for a condition, we really in most cases recommend that fully developed claim package, which is the IMO or the nexus letter, depending on if it's mental health or medical, and the DBQ, and marry those two things up, and man, that makes for a really solid claim in most cases, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think the FDC package that we do for our vets here at Valor Health has been so successful. You probably have the stats to kind of see, how many veterans have won, how quickly they've won. Did they only have a Nexus? Did they have the Nexus and the DBQ? But I can tell you from what I've seen and the veterans that have came back to Valor Health and provided those 5-star reviews for us, most of those guys had that fully developed claim package.
That's right.
And man, it's so exciting to see those veterans successful with their claims.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to recap on this stuff, and then I want to talk about some other services that we're in the process of launching. That's going to be absolutely amazing for the veterans that we serve. So can you round us up back here on the IMO, the Nexus letter, the DBQ, and the FDC, Chuck, and then I'm going to
Yeah,
take us into some other products and
sure.
services.
Absolutely. Thanks, Stacy. And just to recap on the things that we've kind of talked about this morning, the IMO is the independent medical opinion, and that's mostly referred to on the mental health side, right? If you're going after a mental health claim, the IMO is what you're needing. The Nexus letter is something medical. If you're connecting one medical condition to another, say for instance, migraines secondary to your PTSD and your tinnitus, that's what that medical nexus letter is doing, connecting those. The DBQ is the disability benefit questionnaire, which is a more detailed document that we complete for you here at Valor Health that breaks down the severity, the duration, and help me out.
Severity, duration, and frequency.
Frequency. Geez.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah. So those
Yeah.
three things, right? That's what's that DBQ is showing. Um, and then also the fully developed claim package, right? What you're getting with that is you're getting the medical nexus letter and the DBQ with that package, which in my opinion is the strongest thing that you can purchase, when it comes to the medical evidence that you're needing for your claims. So that's kind of a breakdown of the difference between the three things. So if you feel like you're needing that stuff, reach out to us, schedule a free case evaluation call, and we can kind of talk to you on the phone and see if it's something that we can help you with. You can also, sign up for the record review, which is another thing that we do here, where we kind of go through all of your medical documentation that Stacy kind of mentioned earlier, the blue button report, the private medical evidence, whatever you have, we can kind of go through that stuff and see if we can provide, any linkage for you with Nexus letters.
That's right. And I want to throw out a couple clarifications for veterans. So if they're already service connected for a condition, let's say that they're service connected for a mental health condition at 10%, but they feel that their symptoms have worsened over the years, do they need to go ahead and get that fully developed claim package to really bolster their claim, or would a DBQ suffice?
Yeah, the DBQ is all you're going to need, right? Because you're
That's
already
right.
service connected for that condition. All you're wanting to do is show how your condition has worsened and your symptoms have worsened, which is exactly what that DBQ is going to do for you.
That's right. So if you're already service connected, there's no reason to get a nexus letter or an independent medical opinion,
That's exactly
right?
right. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you come, obviously you talk to us, we're going to make sure that you're getting the correct documents, the documents that you need, and we're obviously not going to try to have you get something that you don't need. That's not what we do, right? So, got some exciting news coming up. Been talking to our clinicians, and we've decided to expand some of our services. Currently, we're actually doing what's called DIC Nexus letters. So, if a veteran has passed and their spouse is having problems getting the dependent indemnity compensation, and they believe that their spouse passed because of a service-connected disability, we can dig into those records and see if there is a connection, and we can still write those nexus letters to help those widows or widowers um, go forward with those claims, right? Okay, so that's one of the things, and we're already doing that, and we're seeing success with that. A couple of other things that we're getting ready to launch is a TDIU letter and a P&T letter. Okay, so if a veteran's not at 100%, but they can't work because of one of their service connected disabilities and they meet the criteria, um, our providers can help them draft a letter, or they'll actually draft a letter for them supporting that TDIU claim that the veteran is wanting to file. Same thing on the P&T side. Maybe a veteran has reached 100%, but they're not designated as permanent and total. If they meet that criteria, that our provider can do a medical or psychological opinion saying, hey, it doesn't look like these conditions are going to improve over time, and they'll recommend a permanent and total designator on the end of their 100%. And then finally, we will be moving into ESA letters, emotional support animal letters, right? And Schedule A letters. So what those are, if a veteran is applying for a federal job and they have a disability, our providers can write that Schedule A letter to give them those extra points to take them out of the competitive um, part of those jobs and put them at the top of the list. So those are some things coming up. You can check out our website, valorhealth.net. There'll be more information there on those services under the services tab on our website. So anything else, Chuck, that we want to cover before we bounce out of here?
No, sir. I think we hit the biggest things, and we're excited to help veterans every day that we can. So if you get a chance and you think that we may be able to help you, hook up with us. We'll get you squared away.
Absolutely. And so we'll flash our website up there one more time before we bounce out of here. It's valorhealth.net. Schedule that free case evaluation. Speak with one of our case analysts. You can also call us at 877-84-VALOR and speak with us there. But I don't really have anything else. I think this is a great topic and a great video today, Chuck, and I appreciate you being here. And we'll see everybody on the next one. Take care.